In my world there is music and good vibes and laughter and lovers, adventure and friendship. We know who we are. And I don't think I would be me without you being you. Your direction, expression, intention has taken us far.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Be the Wellness Podcast. Before we go on to the next episode, I want to take a second to invite you to visit our website, BeTheWellness.com, where you can check out our blog and find out more about our various offerings, including our annual paleo retreat in Costa Rica. To help spread the word about our remote coaching program, Unveil Your Wellness, we're also offering a free 15-minute introductory consultation to anyone who has questions about what we have to offer. Check us out at BeTheWellness.com. That's BeTheWellness.com. Thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Be the Wellness Podcast. I think this is episode number 31, and we are super stoked to have another guest with us today.
Yes, we are. This is the lovely Jennifer Partridge, author of Dream Awake, which is, as you call it, a practical guide to authentic living, right?
Yeah. Thank you, guys. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited. Well, I'm so excited to have you here because over the last couple of months since I've been taking your classes, I've noticed some real big changes in my life and in my emotional state, in, just my energetic state. And it's been so cool. So I'm really excited to have you and just share with our listeners more techniques and more things that they can do to integrate mindfulness, to integrate the nowness and being present in their life into their everyday existence.
Beautiful.
So thank you so much for being here and talking to our listeners. We were just talking a minute ago and I started asking you more about your background because I know you've kind of seen and done it all. You've been in this path of life for quite a bit. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So I discovered the healing arts probably about 14 years ago because I was having a crisis and was just like really looking for anything to find balance or to find sanity. I was having anxiety attacks. I'd gone through a period in my life where I was taking a lot of drugs and I was very unstable. And, I started to learn different methods. I became a Reiki master and then a yoga teacher and did energy healing, lots of different types of methods, traveled around the world a bunch, a lot of time in Asia studying, and then really discovered EFT, emotional freedom technique, which is one of the main methods that I teach now. It's just so powerful. It's been a huge transformation in my life, and I just see it so well for other people as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So EFT is the way that I discovered you, and I've gone to a couple of classes. You do classes here locally, every other week, correct?
Yeah, every 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah. So obviously our listeners know we're in LA, we're in Venice Beach, and I'd seen something on Facebook. I've heard rumblings of tapping, and I saw it on there and I said, all right, okay, I'm going to go and check it out. And so tell us what EFT is. You said it's emotional freedom technique, but let's go a little deeper. What is it? Yeah.
Some people call it tapping. Basically, it's a mix of modern psychology and Chinese medicine. So in Chinese medicine, you have these meridians. They call them meridians or energy lines, which basically bring life force into your body. Whenever you have a block or something traumatic happens, you actually start to get stagnation in certain areas of the body. And that's why they do acupuncture or acupressure to press certain points to release the charge or the stagnation. Right. So in tapping, you're actually pressing or tapping specific points in the body where there may be stagnation, while also really triggering yourself through a talk type therapy, modern psychology approach where you're looking at your emotions, you're looking at your thoughts, your beliefs, and then you're also tracking them back through memories, things that happened earlier on in childhood. You bring it all to the surface of your nervous system. So you feel quite, oh my God, this is intense. And then you're breathing and you're tapping it and you're clearing it out of your nervous system, rewiring the way you believe things to be, looking at new perceptions and creating new possibilities for yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to tonight.
Yeah. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. So the actual physical tapping component is sort of just a way to bring awareness to where things might actually be stuck and kind of help
Yeah, so they've actually chosen specific main points that you might use in acupressure or acupuncture that are connected to all the organs. So in Chinese medicine, all the organs are holding emotion as well. So we're working with the main meridian lines, and you're basically flushing your way through all of them, doing cycles. And so you're going to basically, because we're going to go through many different types of emotions as well. So you're just tapping on all the points, shaking up those meridians, and if there happens to be an emotional block in that meridian while you're processing an emotion, it'll start to get cleared. Yeah.
Wow. That's
It's very
cool.
interesting. Yeah. And, you know, when you first go to tapping, you kind of don't know what to expect. But when you arrive at the class, the first thing you do is you have people set an intention, right?
Yeah.
So you write on a piece of paper or whatever. That's the physical way that you set the intention. But emotionally, you kind of ask people, okay, let's work on one or two things in this particular session, right?
Yeah. Usually I actually try to invite people just to really focus on one thing, just because one thing may have many, many years of backed up stuff behind it that wants to be cleared. So you might be focusing on, like, I have some money issues today, but if we actually trace it back, which is what we do in a session, you'll probably start linking it into, you know, your parents and the way you saw your parents behave around money, or an early memory where it's very traumatic. You know, you couldn't afford dinner and things like that. So we're going to draw upon a lot of memories connected to one issue, and so you're going to get the largest movement if you really just drill into one area.
Right.
Yeah.
Lots of roots,
Yeah,
branches and stuff. Yeah,
Definitely.
I can see that for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're like, well, I'm pretty sure that this is my issue, and like, no. Actually.
Yeah. Well, then it goes into ancestral stuff as well. So it's a long line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's true, because, you know, it's been amazing to me every time I've gone. I've had these memories come to surface that I've never remembered. I don't remember these. You know, most of my memories from my childhood, I think, are related to photos. Like, I've seen a photo of something, so I have a memory that's related to that. But, you know, I was remembering really deep-seated memories from, you know, I think before even I was walking and things like that, just energy within the home that I had completely forgotten about or wasn't as familiar with what was going on. And it's just really amazing. You really step us all the way back to the very beginnings of those energy vortexes.
Definitely.
And so this is in a group environment, right? Or do you always do it in a group, or sometimes you do more one-on-one kind of?
Yeah, I do both. I do one-on-one clients as well as group settings as well.
Yeah.
One-on-one clients are a little deeper because I can actually create their own script around what they're specifically working on. And then in a group setting, I create a general script. So you can come and focus on absolutely anything. One person might be focusing on relationships. The other person might be focusing on success at work. And so I create a generalized script that gives people enough structure to go into their specific area and get the movement. Yeah.
Nice. Without too much interference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because emotions are basically the same no matter where you go, whether you're in a relationship or you're in work issues. Anger is anger, sadness is sadness. So I'm really focusing on the main emotional patterns that happen through everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful process. And you, in the very beginning of the class, you set, I forget, you have an agreement, or you have everyone repeat is an agreement to each other? Or?
Yeah, it's kind of like an agreement, like an oath.
Oath, right.
To create a sacred space, because everyone's vocalizing what they're feeling, and the person next to you is also like going through a massive process.
Right.
And so just to really create a space of trust so people know they can really go for it, and that no one's going to go and gossip out afterwards, that it's really a safe container.
Yeah. I think that's probably critical. Right?
Definitely, yeah, because there's some really intense stuff that people are moving through.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm actually amazed at how prepared and willing people are to come and go through the process. I'm blown away by it.
I know. It's really amazing. Yeah.
It really is, because,
Yeah.
you know, and I think it takes quite a bit of bravery. And I think we're in a kind of a lucky time and space, being in Venice and being in LA. There's a lot of people who are very open and willing to try different things. I think it's always been a culture of openness and trying to discover the next new
Yeah, exactly.
The next new modality or healing method. But
Yeah.
it's really beautiful. People are in there and they're having all kinds of emotions, and you're actually really encouraging everyone to feel those emotions all the way, to the point where it's like, you're screaming and yelling, and you can be crying. When I came in, you passed out tissue.
Yeah, everyone gets a tissue.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I better get ready for this.
Yeah, exactly. And you never know what's going to come up either. So
yeah, and I think the cool thing about it though is that you tell folks, instead of pushing it away or saying, be calm or don't feel this or let go of the emotion, you're like, no, feel it, get mad, cry, scream, do whatever you need to do, because I think that's a lot of us have gotten into this place where it's like, oh, I'm not allowed to feel anymore. I have to be, in the moment and pacified, and everything has to be peaceful. But it's just the yin and yang.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So you have to move through both things in order to come to that peaceful state.
Yeah, exactly. And I think so much of our culture is built around suppression because we haven't been taught how to process our emotions. So the easiest way to do it is to push it away or to numb it with alcohol or some type of escapism. So this method is really okay, let's look at what we've been hiding from and just be real with what's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I think we do tend to do that. We compartmentalize things, right? And whether we even think that we're stuffing stuff down and how deep it's going and how deep it's going. And that there's actually even been articles recently, Huffington Post articles, right? So you never know what you're getting there, but where people have been talking about how have we gone too far with being sensitive? Should we be bringing up all of this stuff? Wasn't there some wisdom in just stuffing everything down? And it's so interesting because you're like, no, man, this is what we're figuring out. Who's driving this memo? Who's trying to make us go backwards? What is the point behind that?
Yeah.
But certainly your experience has been that, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Has your experience been that digging in and just really allowing people to experience the emotion in that safe container and kind of get through that stuff is just the way to go? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the vital ingredients in the process is love, compassion, and forgiveness. So it's the combination of allowing yourself to feel it and then bathing it in forgiveness, love, and acceptance that it's there.
Right.
And that's the solvent that then allows it to dissolve, because, you can chuck a tantrum and then you go off and it's not really healed, or you'll repeat it, whether you do it in a circle or you do it somewhere else with your partner. So the real solvent is letting yourself feel it and then forgiving yourself for it, understanding why you're doing it, giving it compassion, giving it forgiveness, and then you get the wisdom for why you actually had the tantrum or why you got so defensive. And usually it's just protection. Your body's trying to protect itself, your mind is, and you're creating all these emotions as a way to stay safe, but actually it's not making you safe.
Right.
So we're just going to look at it and then bathe it in that love and forgiveness.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Let love rule, man.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Every time.
Yeah,
It all
exactly.
comes back
But
to love.
I think it's a really important aspect of it, though, because it is something that I think people tend to do. I know in my line of work, people tend to bury things really deep, and then they talk to their peers about it and all this kind of stuff. And we kind of go back and forth with whether or not this is really a good way of dealing with it or not. But I think one of the things that they're missing, or that we tend to miss in this, is that we may bring it up and we go back and we talk about it and we hash it out, but there's no one there to give us the tools to actually integrate it. And like you said, to actually gain the wisdom from having and resolving the experience. And I think that's a really important point, because there's a very different thing, right? Yeah. Just talking to people and bringing up all of the demons versus bringing up the demons, dealing with them, putting them to bed, and moving on with your life,
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I feel the method also helps you take responsibility for the demons as well. So there's a part of it where, there is blame. It's I blame this person. This is what happened. And then you start to realize through the process that you can carry around blame as long as you want, but is it really helping your health? Is it helping your emotional state? And then people start to realize maybe they did something incorrect that really wasn't right, but I actually want to have my energy back rather than holding on to this anymore.
For sure. Yeah. They've changed all they're going to change or not change.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Totally.
and it's true. And, I part of our program, I do guided meditations that our group can participate in optionally if they want. And one of the guided meditations is forgiveness. So,
Right.
Each day there'll be a different topic. And a lot of times we'll have folks that just say, I'm not ready. Today's not my day for forgiveness. And it's like, that's okay.
Yeah.
You have to give yourself permission to say it's not time. But then, hopefully it's kind of like, hopefully the light switches on at some point and you go, okay, I might be ready to let this forgiveness in. I might be ready to let it go. Like you said, to get your own energy back.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the stepping stones between forgiveness and resolving it, really, what I found is just acceptance. Like, if someone's not ready to fully forgive, and it's probably justified, just accepting that it happened, or accepting that they don't want to forgive, just this feeling of, okay, I accept where I'm at, or I accept that this happened even though I wish it didn't happen. It actually starts to create more space in yourself. That's like the compassion itself, just having acceptance as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, really quickly, I just want to talk a little bit about the book because you gave some really great examples for folks to relate to. So when, for instance, we were just talking about sometimes people bury things and they don't even know they're buried. So I think you gave an example about a gentleman who wanted to be a trapeze artist when he was a kid, but his parents discouraged him and said, you need to have a more traditional line of work. And he became a banker. And by the time he was an adult, there was all of these parts of him that were amiss, but he didn't even remember anymore why these things were not the way that he wanted them to be, or why his life wasn't as synchronistic as he wanted to be. And I think that's such an important piece about it is, how do we get back to remembering what our truth is? And I don't know, what do you give, like if someone came to you and said, I don't even know where to start, what's your first bit of advice, or what's the first piece?
Well, that's exactly where I start, not knowing, and just having compassion for not knowing, and the sadness around not knowing, and the longing to know. So just always starting exactly where they are and working with what they feel about that piece, until you can start to neutralize that piece, like, oh, I'm really sad that I don't know. Once you're able to clear the sadness around not knowing, then there's something underneath the sadness. And it might be fear of discovering it, or fear of going for something. And then you work with that next layer. Okay, fear of discovering it. Okay, and you neutralize the fear of discovering it. And then underneath the fear is something else waiting, right? And then you work your way down through the different layers, and they'll tell you what layer they're at. And then as you start to create more space, there's a very natural occurrence of your own innate wisdom, which is always there. It's just been buried underneath all these layers.
Right.
So just really starting with people exactly where they are, helping them neutralize where they are so that they can get to the next layer, and then it will start to reveal itself naturally.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's So if someone's brand new, do you say, sit quietly, try to meditate? I mean, do you start them just in that place where it's like, just try to create some space for yourself? Or
if someone's trying to figure out what they want?
Yeah, exactly. Because, a lot of folks in our group in particular, mindfulness and meditation is a rather new concept. So we're always trying to give them sort of tangible ideas of what it, how can you put this into play?
It's like, I don't know if I'm doing this right.
Yeah.
The understanding that it may take me 40 years to do it right. How do I even know if I'm on the right track?
Yeah. I think there's so many ways that you can discover what your passion is, or what you want to create in your life. And there's so many different techniques and tools to help you get there. One of my ways is just like, what brings you joy? Like what makes you excited about life? And just do more of that and see what comes of that. And, some people, like that example that you had mentioned, the banker, he had just really forgotten to do things that he enjoyed. And so he was like really stuck and not knowing where to go and how to go for anything, because he'd been programmed or believed that he had to be a certain way. Right. And so you're just like, okay, well, let's just start off at baby steps. Like, what do you enjoy doing? Let's create a little bit more bliss in your life, and that will create more opening for you to see what brings you more and more bliss, rather than trying to force or anything like that. Just do what you feel is fun.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's true. Follow your bliss, right?
Follow your bliss. There's a reason why there's that saying, isn't
totally.
it?
Well, and
Yeah.
so people, it seems to me that people get stuck too in this idea that their work needs to be, you know, do your work should be whatever your passion is, and then you never work. What's the saying? Like,
Yeah, if you
do what you love and never work a day in your life. Or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And I think people get stuck in that sometimes in thinking that, you know, and so listening to this conversation we're having right now, we've got people who are in jobs, supporting families, doing all this stuff, and maybe they don't love it. And they're saying, well, it's easy for you to say, I can't just quit my job and do blah, 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 because I need the money. And and my passion is, you know, painting doilies, and nobody buys doilies, you know, or whatever the situation is. But I think one of the important aspects is that it doesn't mean that you can't still do the things that you're passionate about and enjoy, right? So it's not necessarily that it has to be your career or even, you know, make money at all, but something that you can do that brings that joy back into your life. And then maybe you just forget about the work component for a little while.
Yeah, and I feel like everything is a progression. Like, it's not about the destination, it's about bringing more joy into your life more and more every day. So if you're like really away from that right now, you just plant a few seeds, do a few more things. Maybe it's one thing a week.
Right.
And then you start to meet new people in that area. Maybe it's a hobby that you've picked up, and then that will grow like a flower. It will start to bloom, and then more will come from that. And before you know it, you might start to see other opportunities of what you might like to do in your job. But I think it's just starting off at baby steps, so it's not overwhelming.
Totally.
And just keep following that thread, and that will build momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things they can do is buy your book and read it.
Totally, because that's an easy step. Yeah, it's a practical guide
Okay,
to
so step
authentic
one.
living.
So coming back to the book, why don't you tell us a little bit about it and why you wrote it and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I wrote this book about 5 or 6 years ago, actually. I had just been traveling around Asia and was on my own in a quest of discovery, and also had been studying a lot of alternative medicines for a long time, and actually came out of a ceremony that I'd been in and had a lot of insight that I wanted to share. And one of my realizations was really the basis of understanding that we are all deeply connected to one another. And that when we reunite with that space within ourselves that is deeply connected to each other, we feel more at one in our life. And so things that don't feel good in our life, it's actually because we've forgotten that we're one with it. So it could be anything. It could be a relationship. It could be someone you're against in politics. It could be the guy driving in front of you. So all of these things that make us feel like pissed off or angry or resistance toward reality is just our forgetfulness that we are actually one with it. So that's like the basis of the understanding. Then I break down a whole bunch of activities in the book, which are very simple activities that help you see that you are actually one with your reality and you're actually creating your reality in every moment. And that's the part that's the awakening. We're coming out of a dream state where we think that everything's happening to us, and we start to awaken and recognizing that we are actually creating everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is something I think that we just keep doing our entire lives, right? Because I think you reach levels of awakeness, right? So you know, okay, now I'm awake to realizing that I am one with everything. Now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Right.
because Adam and I talk about that all the time. It's like we understand that we're participating in it. And it's sometimes you get confused in that participation, like how do I awaken more? How do I let go more? How do I surrender to the process? And it's like a constant, you know, continuing education, right?
Absolutely. Which is why I love EFT so much, because EFT, if I could just like put it in one little blurb, it's like it's clearing out the resistance to the other.
Right.
And that's a great practice to help us remember all the time that we're connected to everything. Just clear out the resistance to it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we want to be part of the oneness, you know, and I think especially in our group that we have, our wellness group, we're very, very connected. And I think that all of us feel a sense of joy and peace and love in the knowing that we're connected to each other. And so knowing that we're connected to each other, if you expand that out and realize that we're really all connected to each other, you can just keep really expanding the heart and the love and all possibilities that come from that knowingness. But it's just, it's those first steps of allowance, right? Allowing it to happen and opening yourself up to it.
Yeah, I feel like it's a never-ending process beyond this body, beyond this dimension, our evolution of recognizing our connection to the great big whole is so vast.
Yeah.
So just really starting exactly where we are and being with what's here right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So is tapping something that folks can find all over? Because we have folks literally all over the world. So, we're lucky to have you here in our neighborhood, but how do people get connected with us? Yeah. We're happy you walked from your house here, but
totally. Well, it's actually, the method's been around for about 20 years, so it's kind of infiltrated countries all around the world, but wouldn't say it's as popular as yoga or anything like that. You can look it up online, emotional freedom technique or tapping. There's a lot of online resources that you can go to as well. You could go to my website. We're just about starting to release a whole bunch of power taps, which are like 15-minute tapping sessions, which will be released every week, and that's ournewearth.tv. And then there's different prominent teachers in different locations that you could sort art after as well. My teacher, Sonia Sophia. There's another prominent one, Nick Ortner, and they teach, and a lot of other teachers are around teaching as well. And then there's a lot of private practitioners who don't teach circles like I do, but do one-on-one coaching, and there's a lot more of those too. Yeah,
it's so interesting. I just have to love Venice because
I know
you go to this, this group. There's a place here in Venice called Full Circle, which is really starting to bring a lot of, new age and metaphysical and sort of, different classes in that vein to this area. And it's becoming really a special place. And, a lot of you, it's like you can kind of make fun of it because it's exactly what you think the crazy Californians are doing.
Exactly.
Everyone who thinks this about California, this is what they're talking about.
It's really happening.
We're in the stirring pot.
Exactly.
And I was cracking up because at the last class, I think, literally I'm crying. Tears are coming out of my eyes. I'm remembering these really, really early childhood memories that were really painful. And the next thing you do is you flip on this lovely song and everyone gets up and has a dance party. It's like, I looked around in the room and I was like, God bless you people.
Yeah, I know. Everyone was going for it. It's like, okay, let's shake it off and dance.
Yeah, exactly. Like we just went to the darkness, like let's get back in our bodies and celebrate the moment and the nowness and just the like love that exists. And it was beautiful.
Yeah, and it feels so intimate as well because everyone has just been on that journey with you as well. So it just creates a lovely intimacy with everyone and a real trust to play and to be with each other. I really love that.
Yeah, actually, I had it was reminiscent of Burning Man for me, where you felt a certain safety, like these are my people, and I'm safe here with you, even though I don't know you and we haven't had a lifetime of experience together. Just this moment and this shared experience has brought us together into that oneness.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, and I mean, that's a big congrats to you because you're facilitating that, which is amazing.
Yeah, I feel so grateful that there's such a willingness and a courage in people because it makes it easy for me as well for people just to be willing to really open their hearts up wide and go for it. And it just, the more people that do that, the more it spirals into the rest of the group. Like, wow, they're going for it. I'm going to go for it. And then everyone just jumps on board.
Yeah, that was something I was actually thinking about it with the group dynamic as opposed to doing private sessions. I mean, it seems like it could probably work both ways, right? So maybe the group is kind of low for the day, and so it's holding one person down a little bit that maybe would stand up, but I bet it's the other. I bet it's the opposite of that more often than not, right? Where the enthusiasm and the energy of the room
Yeah,
just makes people more comfortable.
definitely picks everyone up. Every now and then there's someone that's like really still needing to have their quiet space because they just went into a file in their brain that hadn't been opened in 30 years and they just really want to be with it. And I just really encourage wherever you're at, just honor exactly where you're at, and that's the perfect place to be.
Yeah,
Because,
absolutely.
we're covering a lot of terrain with everyone, and the idea is to really move everyone on the same current, but every now and then someone's going to hit a pothole and be like, okay, I need to spend a little bit
Yeah.
more time here, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems to me, though, obviously only having participated a few times, that there's a sense that everyone gives each other courage, and it's like, I feel like, okay, if you're going for it, I'm going to go for it too, because for one, in a way, I don't want to let you down. Like, I want to honor that you are putting yourself out there. You are making yourself vulnerable, and I don't want you to be alone out there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it kind of gives you courage.
People have compassion for each other because they know.
Like, okay, this looks like this is really hard for you. So I'm yeah. Well, that's cool though. I mean, that whatever it takes, right?
Yeah, and some of the activities, I ask people to really go onto their edge, their most uncomfortable places. So it's asking people to stretch through that.
Yeah. And don't you think it's interesting just how deep these files go, how deep these memories go? It's really blown me away. It's been the most significant thing for me, is really like, I'm honestly having memories that were nowhere in my file bank before. And it's just incredible. And it's like, and it's not just a memory, like a memory I'm seeing it on a movie screen. I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm smelling. I'm really understanding the energy that was around that moment. And that is so, like, it's really amazing how far you can progress into that.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And I've even found in my own journey, I've been back to my own birth.
Oh, wow.
And healed stuff from my own birth. And yeah, it's really amazing. Like, I would never have thought that I would ever be able to get that memory, because it's like the very first memory of coming into the world. But I've had that memory come up and done some really deep clearing around my birth trauma.
Wow.
And yeah. So
do you do this for yourself, or do you have a practitioner do it for you? How does it work when you're doing it?
yeah, I do it for myself, and then I go to retreats and I do it with other practitioners.
Yeah.
I exchange with practitioners. But I usually do my own practice because it's right there. If I get triggered by something and no one's around, I'm just going to do it for myself straight up.
Oh, yeah. Well, in the first class I took, you had just gone to Tony Robbins' seminar. So you were all fired up.
I was fired up at that one, really fired up. It's actually a really interesting mix, Tony Robbins with EFT.
Yeah, it was cool though. I could feel the blend was really cool. And what it said to me is that obviously you're a seeker. You like to go and see what other people are doing and integrate it into your own practice.
Definitely. And if I see something that works, I'm going to go for that. And if I see something that's better, I'm going to drop the other thing and go with the best thing, right? Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the things about Tony Robbins is he has sort of a weird reputation, right, for being the motivational speaker and the person that Oprah listens to and like all of this kind of stuff. But when you really break down his recommendations and the things that he talks about, it's very in line with what we're talking about here. You know? I mean, it's just so consumer commodified or whatever.
Right.
You know, so commercial, his message.
Very well.
Exactly. Yeah. Which, I mean, he's doing a fantastic job, you know, I mean, he's obviously, but it's, I guess it's just not counter, right? It seems like they're two different worlds, but ultimately they're saying the same thing to different people. Yeah.
A lot of it is really about rewiring the brain on both sides. He does a lot of neuro-linguistic reprogramming, and EFT is basically working with reprogramming the mind as well. It's going into the files and changing beliefs in files in your mind. So I really like how they sync up in that way. He's a lot more expression-based and a lot more out there, and whereas EFT can be a lot more internal. So it's been an interesting dance playing with both of those energies. Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Where to begin? I'm just going to take a breath with that question.
What are you not doing next? Should I try that?
Well, like I mentioned, I'm just about to start launching these power taps that are going to come out every week, which is super exciting, and been working with an animator. We got a little bit comedy animations at the start, talking about different issues that I've been through, and then doing taps around different issues.
Nice.
So there'll be videos?
Yeah,
Like
they're
old-
videos.
yeah, nice.
Yeah. So they're about to be released next week. We start. And then just next year is going to be a lot more traveling, teaching at events and spreading the word a little bit further around America. And obviously having Venice as my base, but being out and traveling a little bit more too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we are so appreciative of you stopping by today and talking about this. And, you know, it's one of those things that we're trying to go out just like you are and distill, you know, the best information and what's out there that can be helpful to our wellness program. And, you know, honestly, just in 2 sessions, and I'm so excited, it'll be Adam's first session tonight.
Right.
I just felt like a sense of, and I think surrender is the word because it just feels like I don't have to figure everything out. I can actually just let go to a process and hope that, you know, the divine wisdom inside of me or, you know, from the universe or wherever that divine wisdom comes from will tell me how to sort through it. Will provide me tools and answers, and I can actually just kind of let go. And it's just really, it's so powerful. So thank you so much for sharing it with, you know, our listeners today, but also just personally.
Oh, thank you. It's such an honor to be here with you guys and to feel what you guys are bringing to the world. It's really a great opportunity to be a part of it with you. So thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
one of the things, before we wrap it up, one of the things that I think is interesting. Daisy.
We have a guest in the studio.
It's a perfect opportunity to eat.
You got to keep it real.
Yeah, exactly.
If your podcast
man.
studio's in the kitchen, that's what happens.
This is what happens. Yeah. So I think what I was going to talk about, or what I wanted to ask about, was because part of our program, there's not like it's really anything new, right? I mean, we do strength and conditioning, and we do mindfulness stuff, and we do nutrition stuff, but none of it's new or amazing information. What we're hanging our hats on is being able to make it actionable and things that people can, tiny little bite-sized chunks that on a daily basis after a period of time, guess what? Now you've changed all this behavior, right?
Oh, good.
And so that's really one of the things that we try to focus on, which is why we did the guided meditations and some breath work and stuff like that, because people don't have time, you know, they don't to invest in figuring out what the right way to do this is, or all of this kind of stuff, you know? And so if I'm capturing all of this correctly, I mean, this would be something that people can just go and do, right?
Yeah.
Similar to just going to yoga. Like, you don't even need to have to know anything about it. Just go to the class and you're going to get a significant benefit from that, right?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's a very simple process, really. There's a lot of like ways of going about it, but it's really 3 steps. Looking at what there is, accepting what there is, like what your experience is, and then healing it by giving it a new vision. Right. And then we're just tapping on our bodies through that process and talking to ourselves and accessing emotions. And so it's very simple. It's not a complicated thing, and it's not dogmatic. It's not like exclusive to any religion or anything like that. Anyone can do it. Any physical condition can do it. You just have to be able to move your hand up and down and touch your body and speak. And if you can't speak, you can think it in your head. So it's very easy.
Bubbles.
Anyone can do it. Yeah.
Very low barrier to entry.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So then I just wanted to touch on one thing that I think is pretty interesting, is like these ideas that we can have traumas from early childhood, right? That, or maybe not even that big of a deal. Like whatever it was that happened wasn't that big of a deal. It's just that your brain wasn't developed enough to have any context for what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And so this is what it seems like you might be doing for some people, right? Is to be able to go back into that position. And now with your adult, grown up, hopefully mature mind that can sort of sort through some of the nuances of that context, you can go, oh, this had nothing to do with me.
Absolutely.
You know, it was the mailman or whatever the situation is, right? So is that what you find people end up a lot of times? Is that kind of pre-5?
Yeah, that's so well said. That's exactly it. That's what we're doing, because a lot of the stuff wasn't processed at a younger age, and we didn't have an adult that knew how to help us process it. So we're just going back and helping that little kid get what it needed to get in that time.
Get it sorted out.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
and it's
awesome.
so true, because you're making all your first experiences or ideas about experiences. You're sort of categorizing all of your experiences from the very early age. And if you don't have any context, you don't know how to categorize it. So you categorize it one way very early on, and then you hold it in that same context for the rest of your life.
Right.
And
without
it's like
looking again.
And you don't
this
know.
is just how this is. Like, no, that's how a 4-year-old thought that was. Which is probably not exactly how it's working.
Well, and you see it really with abundance and with financial stuff, because people get programmed really early on about money and about finances.
Yes, exactly.
And it stays with, I mean, obviously we know that people who are wealthier have more opportunity for education and that kind of stuff, but they also have an integral part of them believes that there's abundance for them, that there's wealth for them, and their mind doesn't even have the same context as someone who struggles with money.
Right. There's not even that hole there.
It doesn't even come across their mind at all, because it's not there at all in the program.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what's so interesting, is that you're really going back all the way to the Daisy. Daisy's like really, she's really giving us a run for the money today on the podcast.
That's right, at least there's no barking. The barking is the stuff that's hard to figure out. One other thing that you mentioned it briefly earlier, and it's something that I'm fascinated in, but pretty ignorant, is this idea, and I think you said that you might be inheriting, or there might be some heredity to some of these problems. Are you familiar with Rupert Sheldrake, the morphic resonance guy?
I know of around that work. I don't know of his work personally.
So he's I don't know. He's a character, but he's around, and he's a scientist that's been working on this stuff for a long time, and he coined this term, morphic resonance, and the idea based on a bunch of studies with rats and some sort of blue jays that I don't know, I guess I can just tell the story. So I guess in Europe pre-World War II, there was milk delivery, right? And the milk came with these little like caps on them somehow. And there was a particular kind of blue jay that figured out how to take the caps off and drink the milk.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? So during this period of time, they figured it out, and it was, pretty awesome. Then all of a sudden, blue jays all around the area started to figure it out, like faster than you would think that this blue jay could have taught this blue jay, if that's in fact how it worked, kind of a thing. And then World War II comes, and milk delivery stops. And so these particular birds, their life cycle is such that none of them, there wouldn't have been a bird that was alive pre-World War II in post-World War II Europe. They would have been, it was like 4 or 5 generations.
Right, yep.
And sometime after World War II ends, milk delivery starts, and immediately the blue jays start pulling this stuff off again, right? So there was the idea is that there's some sort of pass down.
Definitely.
That's happening, whether it's in the DNA and Rupert Sheldrake is thinking that it might actually be transmitted via DNA, but there could be, well, who knows what the answer is. But.
No, actually, it's a really good point, because I've read a lot of scientific articles around the testing of the DNA. When there's been a really emotional time for someone, the DNA actually gets imprinted with that emotion, and it gets stored in the DNA, and then it gets passed down to the next generation. Yeah. And so if like your great-great-great-great-grandmother went through the depression and maybe some family like starved to death, or things like a lot of drama happened, whatever they went through, if it was really intense, that's getting programmed into the DNA as survival mechanisms, as ways of perceiving reality, and also just the way the body develops, and that gets passed down. And so then many generations later, you are actually having that great-great-great-grandmother's imprint in your DNA, and it can get activated or triggered by something small, and then it starts, you start to go on that same tangent of fear when actually you're in a very safe place and there's an abundance around. So the DNA is getting imprinted by a lot of, and it could be really happy stuff too, or really intense traumatic things. Yeah,
because I think that was and this is certainly what they're able to show in like the mice and rat models, is because it's hard to prove the really positive experience, right? Like, how do you give a mouse an incredibly positive experience? But it's pretty easy to give them a negative experience. I think they like shock them and then associate it with a smell.
Yeah.
And it's incredible, but this is what they found, is that things that are traumatic, or things that it's like you need to remember this. Snakes are bad. Like that kind of that kind of stuff seems to be what is passed along the most, right?
Yeah.
Which is great from like a survival instinct perspective, but it sort of sucks for us now, where there's not a lot of surviving, that we have to do, but we just have these imprinted negative, freak out emotions.
Yeah. Which is why, we can reprogram our DNA. If we can go into those files, our codes, and we can look at them and we can give compassion and love to why we have them and why we think we need them, then we can actually transform them. But unless we look at them and really be with them and get the understanding that we need, they will always control our life.
Right.
But we can change our DNA. We can change the way our brain is wired, and we can change the way we perceive reality if we take time to look at those fear-based patterns.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time with diet and exercise stuff at the epigenetic level, right? I mean, minor changes causing hundreds of genetic modifications down the line.
Beautiful.
Flipping switches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those things where you think about it, it's like, okay, well, if you can figure out, you can change how your musculature works in your physicality. You can go in and pinpoint something and work on it. It's the same way with your emotions, with the metaphysical. And it's not even, we say metaphysical, but it's really not even metaphysical. It's actually physical. I mean, the neural pathways in your brain are getting rewired. Like, things are actually changing.
Absolutely.
And then, we talk about that all the time, like, what you're emitting, the vibration you're emitting as a person is going to attract the likeness of that vibration. So it's like you actually can change, the frequency that you're at.
Hallelujah to that.
Amen. Let's start vibrating.
Faster or I don't know, more consistently or something. Whatever the
higher
the
and
magic
happier.
Yes, exactly. All of those things.
All those things seem like a good idea.
Yeah, well, once again, thank you so much for being with us, and it's been lovely speaking with you. I knew as soon as you came up to me right away, actually, as you do with everyone, and say hello and give everyone a hug and welcome them to the class, and I'm like, okay, I want to be friends with her.
Oh, yay! I'm so glad we're friends. Yeah.
No, you just have a lovely energy, and you're making a difference in the world. You're helping to heal the vibration that, is keeping us stuck in a certain place that we can move forward as a culture, as a universe, and it's beautiful. You're a part of that.
Oh, thank you. And same to you guys. You're doing amazing work as well, and I feel so honored that I get to share this with you, and congratulations on your show and all the work that you're bringing to the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So tell us one more time where people can find more. What's the best way for people to buy this book? Amazon or from your website?
You can either go Amazon.com and just look Dream Awake, Jennifer Partridge, or you can go to my website, which is ournewearth.tv, and the book link is there as well.
Perfect. Yeah.
Sweet.
Awesome.
And anything else? Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, you can.
All of the things?
Yeah, Instagram. You could go to Jennifer Partridge on Instagram as well as Facebook. I have a page there, and very active in those worlds.
Awesome. So we'll put links to all that stuff in the description, so you've got it there.
Awesome. Thank you.
And we'll see you tonight.
Yeah.
Yay! What a great way to start the evening, actually. I feel totally activated.
Me too. No, it feels good. It's like, okay, let's go now.
Yeah, let's go do this.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, we'll see you tonight, and hopefully we'll have you back on in the future.
Oh, I would love that.
To keep the conversation going.
That'd be amazing. Would love that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We will be back at you next week. Peace.
Bye.